Yeah, I've just been kind of chilling outside, just dreading having to try to get my car out and watching some other people get stuck on the road as they're trying to get in their driveways. But anyway, uh, today's video is actually going to be about the live view shooting experience with the K3 Mark III in regards to the autofocus options. I've heard some things that the live view hasn't been improved with the K3 Mark III compared to the older generation of cameras, and that I strongly think is pretty far from the truth. There have been a lot of improvements with the K3 Mark III's implementation of live view, whether that has to do with firmware updates over the past year. Not entirely sure. I haven't actually done a back-to-back direct comparison until today. But using the K3 Mark I in the live view options versus the K3 Mark III with the live view options, there is a big difference between the two. So let's just dive into the differences with them back to back. Okay, so we're going to start with the K3 Mark I, and it'll be the same for the K3 Mark II. Now let's look at the live view menu here. And in the live view menu, you've got your contrast autofocus, focus peaking, grid display, histogram display, highlight alert, composition adjustment. Now, what you'll notice is in the contrast autofocus settings, you have a few options. The first one is face detection. The next one is tracking. The next one is full auto, and then you have your select, and then you have your spot. So let's go to face detection, and let's see how this fares. I've got bodiless Bella here. I'm using the Sigma 1770 f2.8 to 4 DC macro HSM set to 50 millimeters. And as you can see, the yellow box, there is a bit of lag in regards to its ability to track around. It does seem to lag a slight bit behind, and then it eventually does catch up. And if you lock on, it does not track anymore. And that was totally not in focus. Try that again. There we go. And you'll see the box does not move. So as long as you're not pressing anything, you're not activating any of the autofocus, it does live real-time tracking. And if we move in, you'll notice the box does get larger as we move away. It gets smaller. Zoom in, or zoom out, sorry. Box gets smaller. So we zoom in, it expands. So it's okay. It's usable. Now let's go to the next option here, and the next option is the tracking. So let's see how this looks. And you'll notice it's not tracking if you're not pressing any of the autofocus, either the back button focus or half pressing the shutter. Now, let's actually focus on bodiless Bella here. And as we move around, you'll see it is trying to stick to the eye. Now, here's the thing. If we move quickly, it does not regain that spot. And this is the issue with the older generation Pentax cameras. You have to be pretty slow and methodical in regards to your composition if you're going to be using this. That's not too bad. Yeah, it's working a little bit. Okay, and it just lost it again. Now let's go to the next one. And we will also do it, we're going to do a comparison to the K3 Mark III. Go to full auto here. And in full auto, you'll see there's a box grid there. So you have to keep the subject within that frame. And now it does not track. And anywhere along here, it does not track either. There's nothing indicating where it's actually going to acquire focus. It's just randomly picking whatever focus point it deems is correct. So there's there, and then if I move it over just a tad, yeah, so it's literally just randomly picking anything within the frame or within that grid in regards to the autofocus. Next one down is select, which as expected is literally just select. There is no tracking, there's no face detection. It's just a selectable autofocus area that you can pick yourself. And that's pretty much it. You know, it's basic. And that's it. So now let's switch over to the K-3 Mark III and I will show you how much live view has actually improved in regards to the focus options. Okay, to start off the K-3 Mark III focus in live view, let's look at the options here. So you have your autofocus active area, focus peaking, contrast autofocus options, which are basically release or focus priority, and face detection, which is a separate option, either on or off. So with this, the difference is it doesn't matter which autofocus mode you're using. If you have face detection on, it will detect the face, regardless as to any of the other parameters you're using. Or you can have it set to only work in the auto area autofocuses. So what that actually means in layman's terms is you've got your auto area and zone select. So if you have the face detection set to any of the auto modes, it's just these first two options. Auto and zone are the only ones that will allow face detect. If you have face detect on all the time, you can literally use tracking, select L, select M, select S, and spot, and it will still track the face. Let's see how that actually works. So there's bodiless Bella, and look how snappy that was. There's nothing there. Bring it up, boom. Look at that. And this is a lot stickier than the K-3 Mark I was. Much stickier. If I zoom out, and then zoom back in, notice the box, well, if I can actually keep this, there we go. The box does change more readily in regards to detecting the size and shape of the face. Now, one thing I'm going to change here is go to F4, keep everything simple, keep everything pretty much the same as it was with the Sigma lens there. Okay, here we go. And as you can see, it's tracking much more accurately and in real time. And again, this is live tracking. So do not press the shutter button, do not use your back button focus. Once it's locked, it stays locked. As soon as you let go, it begins the tracking sequence again. Now let's go to the next autofocus option, which is zone. And in zone select, it is the same as the K-3 Mark I. You'll have that box that you can see there. Maybe a little difficult to see. Let's see if I can bring this down here. Okay, so you've got the box in the center, that grid, and once you bring it up to the face, that box will disappear and it detects the face and automatically begins tracking. And again, if you lock the focus in place, it stays locked. Now let's go to the next one, and now this is where things get interesting. Let's go to tracking. Now with the tracking, it's difficult to actually see because it's just a small, I don't know, crosshair. Very thin crosshair. And this one is different. So once you activate the autofocus, have pressed the shutter or use back button focus, it will begin tracking immediately once the autofocus is active. This is not providing live real-time tracking. This is only once you've activated the autofocus. Let's get closer to bodiless Bella here and see if the tracking, it does work in real time actually, I think. Yep. At least with a PLM lens. So it is trying to maintain focus. It does jump in and out, but along the z-axis, it does actually try to maintain focus. Completely different than the K-3 Mark I. The K-3 Mark I does not do that. Now let's go to select large, and once again, face detection is on, and it is tracking the face. Absolutely tracking the face. However, once it's locked, that's it. So you would do your composition before you shoot, and then when you're ready to shoot, oh, that was off. There we go. And let's go to the next one, which is medium. And it'll be the same thing. In medium, autofocus tracking in live view is working. And the other advantage with the K-3 Mark III is you do have the touch to focus and the other option of touch to focus and shoot. So you just tap the rear screen and it will focus and shoot on its own. And here we go again. Face detection is on, so it's automatically doing its tracking. And just focus, and bam. And the last one is spot. So even in spot focus, let's move somewhere else. So there's spot focus. And now let's go back to bodiless Bella, and it recognizes the face and begins tracking immediately. So yeah, it is a completely different experience than what we're used to with the older generation of Pentax cameras. And I have seen some things online, as I said, where people do mention that there hasn't been much improvement. Well, to me, this is a large improvement over what we were used to before. So let me turn off face detect. And now let's go back. And let's see here. Go to zone. Try to replicate the K-3 Mark I. So we're in zone. And it's just randomly picking whatever it feels should be the focus point. It's not actually detecting the face. It's looking for higher contrast. So let's change this to tracking. This is the smallest autofocus point. Let's go right in the center here. Okay, that works. However, not sure how well the tracking will actually work. Actually, not too bad. It's actually not too bad. So there you have it. The face detection on the K-3 Mark III is a large improvement over the older generation of Pentax cameras. And it works in every single autofocus mode. So there you have it. There are some pretty big differences between the live view focusing experience between the K-3 Mark I and the K-3 Mark III. The K-3 Mark III has been a drastic improvement all across the board compared to the older generation of Pentax cameras. And that's pretty much it for this video. If you like the video, leave a like. If you have not already, please do subscribe. Always helps out. If you have any questions or comments, leave them down below. If you want to support the channel, that info is down there at the bottom below as well. And that's it. You'll see me on my next video. I'm out.